Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Regan, for being willing to run the gauntlet and step up in this way. Congratulations to you, and congratulations to your family. It's great that you can be here. It means a lot to him and means a lot to us as well, so thank you for that. I appreciate very much the time you took with me on the phone. I appreciate very much your reference to stakeholders often. That's a good sign. When we talked a few weeks ago, as you know, I was a fellow regulator. I spent nearly 10 years as an environmental regulator before coming to Congress in an elected position. And in your nomination acceptance speech, and while today you've referenced stakeholders, you also referenced the importance of states. And of course, being a former state regulator, you would do that. And you reiterated your desire to support states and not dictate to them. And of course, states are some of your most important stakeholders in this new job. And I welcome that, because I've spent a lot of time talking about cooperative federalism around here, the lack of it over the decades and centuries in many cases. And I'm just wondering, to this point, and I know it's early in the administration, but I've not seen a lot of cooperation coming from the White House. I've seen a lot of executive orders. We've seen a lot of dictates. In fact, and things like the lease prohibitions or pauses on federal lands, Keystone XL pipeline. Granted, those aren't directly under EPA jurisdiction. But none of the states affected were ever consulted before the president signed those executive orders. I want to hear from you how you'll be different than what we're seeing so far.
Well, thank you for that question, Senator. And I too enjoyed the conversations that you and I had about the balance of state and federal government interaction. You know, I see the executive orders as setting goals and setting vision. But in those executive orders, they leave plenty of room for how these things will be implemented. The reality is that these cabinet agencies will be implementing and executing these visions. And so we have a ton of time, in my opinion, to aim for these goals, but massage the processes by which we will achieve those goals. And so, I want to do what I've done in North Carolina and done, I believe, fairly well, which is convene the stakeholders that will be impacted by these decisions, look at the rulemaking processes, look at the voluntary actions, harness the power of our private sector who are creating these jobs and following the trends of the market to think through what are the proper actions we can take collectively to meet and possibly exceed the goals of these executive orders. So I think the substance and the crux of how we execute on these executive orders rely or reside in these cabinet agencies. And I look forward to having conversations with you, your staff, and others on how we get there.
I appreciate that. And I think you and I are going to have a lot of good discussions, quite honestly. And I'm grateful for your sentiments. I was thinking about specifically, and probably in a later round or maybe even over coffee sometime, we'll talk more about things like the methane rule, for example, that tends to, a one-size-fits-all methane rule tends to disqualify states that already have methane rules, and it's an important, I think, area of some exploration. It's a specific case study, but there are a lot of those. You've heard already, we've talked some already about Waters of the U.S., Clean Power Plan, and as you know from your previous experience at EPA, both these rules under the Obama administration faced serious legal hurdles. I mean, North Dakota led one of the most successful WOTUS challenge with 11 other states in litigation, and joined West Virginia in its Clean Power Plan case. Based on your reviews of those cases, obviously you know them well, do you think that the rules had some shortcomings, and if so, what were they?
One of the things I've always pledged is I would follow the science and follow the law. And the courts have obviously had their opinions about these laws. I'll say there's two ways I look at this. As a former state regulator, the lack of certainty and the litigation has been very painful for us who are trying to get the business of our states done. So that's the downside. The upside is, as administrator, I have the ability to look back at what we've learned and what worked and what didn't, and we can apply those lessons learned to how we're going to move forward. So I'm grateful that we've sort of worked out some of those kinks and we understand where the limits of the law are. It's my desire to follow the law, not exceed my statutory authority. And I believe with the proper stakeholder engagement, I think that we can forge a path forward. And I look forward to that.
I look forward to continuing the discussion in round 2. Thank you.